Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. James Gunn and DC dropped a brand new Superman trailer. There's a bunch of new footage here, so we'll break it all down. If they're going to be releasing all these trailers, I'm going to have to buy like 10 more t-shirts so I'm not wearing the same thing every single week for all these videos. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. A lot of new footage of what looks like Lex Luthor going to the Arctic to try and break into the Fortress of Solitude with the Ultraman here, like the evil version of Superman, the clone, whatever we're going to call him in the movie. Most people refer to him as Ultraman. Yes, it should be said Ultraman from the comics is technically the Earth 3 Superman, which is a big multiverse twist. That's not who this is. I think people are just using shorthand to call him Ultraman. And we get a lot more close-up frontal footage of Superman flying through the Arctic, which is like a longer version of some of the footage they released with that very first teaser, where you only saw a little bit of him flying through the Arctic here, but from the back, not from the front like now. Because we're talking about James Gunn here, the way he filmed the movie, and the way he's using this perspective camera to film a lot of their flying scenes, most of you will remember Adam Warlock and the way that he filmed his flying scenes during Guardians of the Galaxy 3. A lot of people make the Black Adam comp too, mostly for comedy purposes. Like, everybody's filming these weird flying scenes like this now. Like, what happened? Why are these filmmakers using the same technique now all of a sudden? You could make the Black Adam joke because we are in the DC universe, but I think James Gunn is mostly just using his own techniques that he used in his previous movies. Like, he's mostly cribbing from himself. But I think the way that they're filming this, the technology that they use has improved since he did Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So I think these flying scenes will be way better than the Adam Warlock flying scenes, basically from the same type of perspective. Even without talking about the story and how this version of Superman is going to be different from all the previous versions of Superman like Henry Cavill in Zack Snyder's movies, just talking about the technical way that James Gunn actually filmed this looks so completely different from any previous Superman movie, and a lot of DC movies too for that matter. I think it's either going to take longtime Superman fans just a little bit of time to get used to through these next couple of trailers. Like, we'll get a bunch more trailers before the movie comes out. But if it all winds up working out, I think it'll do a good job of differentiating this era of Superman just in general, so that it doesn't feel like just exactly more of the same over and over and over again, fatiguing people. A really good example of this phenomenon is that somebody actually cut the trailer to the Smallville theme song, and it actually feels very much like the Smallville era of Superman, like a lot of CW vibes. I can't put the whole edit in this video just for copyright reasons because the song will get copyrighted, but you kind of get the idea. When James Gunn was talking about this version of Lois and this version of Clark's relationship, he also used the term Clois, which is a Smallville term that was coined from the Smallville era of Superman with that Lois and Clark. There are even a couple other Smallville Easter eggs in the Superman movie you probably spotted in the trailer. I've talked about this in previous videos. Luthor Corp instead of Lex Corp is a big Smallville Easter egg. Luthor Corp was created for the Smallville TV show. And even though Nicholas Hoult's version of Lex is going to be very different from all the previous versions of Lex Luthor, they did talk a lot about Michael Rosenbaum's version of Lex, because without seeing more of Nicholas Hoult, I think we can still say that Michael Rosenbaum has probably been the best version of Lex so far from any version. One of the other major differences that James Gunn said that he baked into this version of Superman and his next era of DC, just in general compared to previous eras of DC, not just Zack Snyder because he was the previous era, so we mostly talk about him when we talk about differences. Generally, James Gunn said that he really wanted to bring his era of DC more towards the Silver Age big sci-fi era of DC Comics than we've seen in movies thus far. That is why in the background of the trailer you see him fighting this giant kaiju while also this giant space-looking starfish. I don't know who this is going to wind up being. There's so many theories about what's going on in the background here with this giant beam weapon. While you also have really crazy stuff like Krypto, the Superdog, and Supergirl flying around in this. That is the other big thing too. James Gunn confirmed that Supergirl is going to be in this movie. They released the first look at the Supergirl movie because they just started filming that movie just a couple days ago. I will probably do a completely separate video about what's going on during this scene that they're filming, but this is meant to be Millie Alcock, who most of you remember from House of the Dragon. She played the young version of Rhaenyra during Season 1 and Season 2. They're in the middle of filming a very particular scene in a completely different part of the universe in an outer space bar. So like she's not on Earth and Superman isn't around her when this is happening. But the whole reason why they announced that she was going to be in the Superman movie too is because they announced that her parents had been cast for the Superman movie. So it's like, why would you cast Supergirl's parents for the Superman movie if Supergirl herself wasn't else going to be in it? Unless he's pulling some Marvel-level trickery with the way they put these trailers together, removing stuff so that it doesn't give away spoilers, I don't think that we've actually seen her in the background of any of these shots here. This whole scene where it seems like he's cradling Kellex outside the Fortress of Solitude, maybe after Lex Luthor, Ultraman, and the Engineer from the Authority comics had broken in. If you zoom in and enhance on the reflection in Kellex's little dome here, it seems like there's somebody standing on the other side of the frame here. A lot of people wondered if that was going to be a version of Supergirl showing up at the Fortress of Solitude. I'm not expecting that, but I do think that she shows up maybe at the very end of the movie in some sort of tag scene just to help set up her movie, because her movie, like the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, is meant to be the next movie that DC is releasing after the Superman movie. Literally within about a year of us watching the Superman movie, we'll be watching the Supergirl movie. All the other big DC stuff that they release between that will be TV show stuff like Peacemaker Season 2, the Green Lantern HBO series, which I also just did a video for because they just announced that they cast Sinestro for that, so I'll link that video at the end of this because there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with that too that's completely separate. Most of the Green Lantern stuff going on during the Superman movie I think will just be Guy Gardner to sort of dip our toes in Green Lantern in this new DCU. Cannot wait to see Nathan Fillion be a total butthole to everybody, especially Superman. He is probably going to be extra nasty to Superman. James Gunn said one of the reasons why he cast Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner is because longtime fans always wanted to see Nathan Fillion as a version of Green Lantern. Like, he should have been Hal Jordan if they'd made the movie several years ago, which they kind of did with Ryan Reynolds. But because for whatever reason, it seems like Nathan Fillion kind of missed his chance. He said that because he's personal friends with Nathan Fillion, like Nathan Fillion shows up in a lot of James Gunn's movies in the background. Because he's also a really good actor, and he wanted to see the comedy of putting his friend in a bowl cut like this, putting him in the Guy Gardner bowl cut, he just felt like it was too perfect of a casting. Like, he's kind of playing a joke on his friend, but also having a little bit of fun with the character. So we will see what the destiny of Guy Gardner is in the new DCU. The rumor is the Green Lantern HBO series is revolving around a murder mystery because it's kind of like True Detective inside the DC universe with Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. My early theory right now is they might be investigating the murder of one of the other members of the Green Lantern Corps, and that's the big murder mystery. So we will see if they wind up killing off Nathan Fillion. Hopefully they do. Hopefully he'll stick around for a little bit longer because there's so many big Green Lantern stories and you want to have around as many Green Lanterns as possible for stuff like that. And they're just getting started with that franchise inside the DCU. Like, we still haven't seen Kyle Rayner, there's Jessica Cruz, there's a whole bunch of other Green Lanterns from the comics that they can work up to. One of the other big things, too, is all the Krypto footage. James Gunn teased that there's going to be a bunch more Super Bowl footage, but he said he's releasing it at the Puppy Bowl, which is like a whole separate tie-in event with the actual Super Bowl itself, like with the actual football game, with just a bunch of dogs running around. So it kind of makes me think that they're releasing a very Krypto-themed Superman trailer around the Super Bowl, but maybe they'll also release a regular trailer around that, too, in a couple weeks. One of the other cool details in this new footage is Lex Luthor's aircraft here. It looks way more advanced than you would normally expect from an aircraft like this. When you look at some of the other footage too, where Mr. Terrific is protecting Lois Lane with his T-spheres and the force fields, you see all the other Luthor Corp guards in their gear, like in a bunch of power suits with those lasers firing on them. Notice the colors, purple and green. That might be prototype for his actual war suit from the comics, from the war armor. One of the things about this version of Lex Luthor that James Gunn said he wanted to get across was the idea that he was a real threat to Superman and somebody you actually should be afraid of, like a real threat in the movie. And part of the way that he's doing that is that he's meant to be a stone-cold genius, and you're meant to see that with a lot of the things that he's done up to the present day of the movie. It seems like he does break into the Fortress of Solitude at some point during the movie and steals Kryptonian technology and is going to use that against Superman. But even before that, you have to imagine that he's cloned Superman and he has all this other technology that he's created with his genius, all before he breaks into the Fortress of Solitude and gets more hyper-tech from the Kryptonian database in the fortress. And because James Gunn said he's really hyping up the sci-fi silver age of DC, we'll see how long it is before we see Lex Luthor in a giant suit of armor firing off at Superman, just pounding it out with him. Just a good old knockdown, drag-out fight, but put Lex Luthor in a power suit. They kind of just did that on the Superman and Lois TV show, where they actually did let Superman open up on him because he was wearing the power suit. Whereas before, during all their fights, he'd always have to hold back because Superman isn't going to kill Lex Luthor in broad daylight. but you put him in some super-powered armor, especially with some kryptonite-powered armor, and it's way easier to let Superman just completely unleash the beast on him. So maybe in the next several years, we'll actually see a DCU version of this with the two of them going at each other eventually. You probably noticed that when they released this trailer, it was also around the same time that David Corenswet released a new commercial that he did for some special cologne, probably timed together for synergy so they could just build off the hype of each other. There was a little bit of this back in the day when Henry Cavill first became Superman, where he started releasing commercials and they started using those building off of all of his Superman Man of Steel hype too. Really big reminder, we also have the Spider-Man episodes next week, and we have Invincible Season 3 episodes after that too. I will be doing videos for all of them week to week, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that stuff. Everybody click here for that brand new Green Lantern announcement, and click here for my other real big Superman trailer video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.